So we don't have constantly ourselves echoing in our heads anymore. That was the mechanic from the last set, echo. We didn't want to have echo in this set.
I think it was a little bit of magnetic interference with the headphones. It was a problem.
But we got things figured out now, so we can get things back on track. And so about the sort of overall theme of the Boomsday project, it's really about mad science, right?
Yeah, it's all about science. We're taking all the different types. So we've got gloop science in the Druid lab. That's biology. Or rogues are messing with chemistry and poisons and all sorts of crazy gases. There's all sorts of stuff going on in Boom Labs, and each of these 9 labs is run by one of 9 legendary scientists.
Okay.
And
we've seen one of them.
Absolutely.
And I imagine maybe we'll see another one today?
Well, we'll take a look.
All right. Well, is it about time to get into the cards themselves?
Yeah, let's get started.
All right. So our very first card of the reveal stream, let's do it. Ooh, this is a legendary spell.
Yep.
Kangor's Endless Army. Resurrect 3 friendly mechs. They keep any... What?
Yeah.
They keep any magnetic upgrade. So normally when you have any kind of effect that resurrects a creature, brings a creature back to life, it just comes in its normal form. You Eternal Servitude your Prophet Valen. Well, he's Prophet Valen. He's not like a Prophet Valen if you've played Velen's Chosen on him. I'm just pronouncing Velen and Valen different, each of those different card names. And I just realized that I do that when I tried to say both of them in the same sentence, but maybe I'll do that differently in the future. But this one, so if you're playing a mech deck and you have a lot of like big mech minions and you're piecing together things maybe with Ziliax, this can get crazy.
Yeah, you get a War Gear and a Ziliax, another War Gear, and then you just get to bring them all back. And you get to bring back 3, so it's interesting trying to figure out, do you play your mechs as buffs? Do you play them to the side? How wide do you want to go? How tall do you want to go?
And one of the interesting things is usually when you have effects that care about like resurrecting stuff, you don't want to play it with small minions. You're like, okay, I'm playing the pre-spell stone. I want to play this with a bunch of big minions, so I'm guaranteed to get back big stuff. With this, if you play a small minion, you can then magnetic something onto it, use it to fight for the board early, but still be guaranteed to get a powerful mech back when you use this resurrect effect.
Absolutely. And if it's a small minion with magnetic, you can use that as a buff later in the game, so it works out the same way.
I think we may have animation for this too.
Yeah,
to see what this looks like when you play it. All right.
So that's a giant Ziliax, yeah.
All right.
Ziliax plus War Gear, it looks like. As long as we don't burn it.
Surrender imminent.
Too soon. Too soon. It's like a year ago, but still too soon. All right. Oh, that was a brawl. Now we have Endless Army, though. We gotta cast it, don't we?
I hope so.
Or do we just brawl the board? This is the same animation, I think. This is still the brawl happening.
We're just gonna brawl it.
We're just gonna keep fighting.
I mean, the brawl animation is sweet.
It is. It's true.
We're just gonna keep rewatching it.
See, a mech wins the brawl.
Then we got a dinosaur.
Surrender imminent.
Surrender. I like the attack sound. Hatchling. And then
Our turn.
No, oh,
all right.
There it is. Okay.
There it is.
We made it. We're gonna cast it. All right. So yeah, we're gonna resurrect 3 friendly mechs. Keep any magnetic rather.
Yeah.
Oh, you see them all come back in their like original form, and then they get the magnetic
they get the
thing,
buffs just to message it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. So that's the Paladin legendary spell.
It is. Yeah.
Awesome.
They're doing like laser science in the Paladin labs.
Okay. And I'm guessing Kangor is the leader of the Paladin lab.
He is, yeah. Crystal Smith Kangor. He's the Paladin legendary scientist, and
all right,
we'll see him someday.
Not today, though.
Not today.
All right. Well, now we know the kind of stuff he does, so you get something to look forward to.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the next card.
All right. You don't have to tell me twice. Ooh, Deadringer. This is a 2/1/4/2 priest death rattle. Draw a death rattle minion from your deck. Now, this is the sort of card that I can think of some decks that I might put it in.
What would you put it in, Brian?
Quest Priest. There's actually, so playing a deck like Quest Priest, you want to have a certain density of death rattle effects, and also you sometimes in long games, unless you're playing Benedictus, and nowadays I basically always play Benedictus.
Of course.
You run the risk with your Twilight's Calls of bringing back card draw minions late in the game when you are deep in fatigue already, and it makes those cards kind of weak later on. Whereas if, say, this replaced Loot Hoarder in your deck,
Yep.
This guarantees that you get a card that can help advance your quest, and late in the game, you don't run the risk of, oh, you know, I can't afford to cast my Twilight's Call because I'm going to go deeper into Fatigue.
Yep, absolutely. And if you want both of them, you can play Loot Hoarder and Deadringer.
Right, even more of them, right. It gives you additional copies of those cheap Death Rattles to play for that. You also could play this in, not necessarily a quest deck, but a deck that cares about having particular Death Rattle minions. Say you're playing, a deck that wants to be a Coffin Crasher deck, for instance.
Sure, yeah.
You're playing a Coffin Crasher deck, and you play, a couple of these to ensure that you get your Coffin Crashers and your Obsidian Statues or other, gigantic Death Rattle minions, so that you don't worry about not having some piece of your combo there.
You just hope your Coffin Crasher doesn't pull out your Deadringers.
You got to play it first.
Right,
You
of course.
got to plan ahead. It costs 2. So the problem with Coffin Crash in a lot of cases is when you have like mid-sized stuff.
Yeah.
It's difficult to find a place to play. You want to have like these plus Coffin Crashers plus gigantic Death Rattle minions is kind of a perfect sequence because you can ensure you have each of the pieces of your combo, and this is cheap enough that you can play it and get it out of your hands, so you're guaranteed to get a big thing with your Coffin Crasher.
Yep, absolutely. Good with Twilight's Call. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a very, very cool card. So is there like a Death Rattle theme, for Priest in the set in addition, or is this kind of a one-of?
A little bit. There's a little bit of a Death Rattle theme. Priests are really about cloning in this expansion.
Cloning. Okay, so like Mirage Collar type stuff.
A little bit of Mirage Collar, a little bit of like Faceless Manipulator type thing.
Interesting.
When you look at
What's
like
their lab called?
the Cloning Lab.
Oh.
That's
A
run by.
little on the nose, don't you think?
Well, it's run by the Master Cloner.
Okay, got it. All right, interesting. Well, I have some guesses as to what he might do.
Ah.
We've already seen, what was it, Herald Village?
Yeah.
A bunch of cloning effects, too. So it's definitely something that priests do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, very
Let's take a look at the next one.
All right, let's do it. Reckless Experimenter. So this is another Death Rattle theme card.
Yep.
Death Rattle minions you play cost 3 less, but die at the end of the turn. Oh, interesting. Huh. So this is the sort of card that you want to play with cards that have a powerful Death Rattle effect. So this only counts things that you play, not things that are put into play that are summoned.
Yep. So Coffin Crasher.
I was gonna say we got more Coffin Crasher cards right here. If you
Sure.
want.
Cube.
Yes. Ooh, Cube. Wow. Okay. I've actually played a lot of Priest decks that have felt like they kind of wanted to play Carnivorous Cube, but Priest not having a way to activate its own Carnivorous Cube always felt a little awkward.
Yep.
Because you'd play your cube and they get silenced, and that would
Yep.
feel sad. Whereas this,
Or turn into a chicken.
Or turn into a chicken. There you go. So yeah, this is pretty interesting, and this can allow you to potentially like cycle through stuff, like we saw with was Deadringer was the name of the card. Yeah, you could potentially play like that into that gets you another one, which gets you a Loot Hoarder, which gets you a Loot Hoarder, which gets you
Yeah, absolutely. These die at end of turn, so you have to.
Oh, okay, right. End of
It's
turn,
not
right.
immediate.
I was
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
immediate initially, and I was like, boom, chain through all.
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
but- Okay, so yeah, there's less opportunity to chain it through things, but a lot of potential like neat things that you can do just to guarantee you're getting Death Rattle effects immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you play like Obsidian Statue and then cube it, the cube will die at end turn and give you 2 totally clean Obsidian statues.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's and you can cast that with this combination, right? It actually adds up because it costs you 2 for the cube and 7 for the. Oh no, not 6 for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Wow. It's as if that were intended to just
you
line
know.
up perfectly. I love this kind of card too, because this isn't the thing that's you look at it and you're like, okay, well this goes in this deck. This is exactly the thing you do with this.
Right.
It's kind of open-ended design that you have a whole variety of different kind of Death Rattle cases that you might be able to use with this card.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the Boomsday project. It's one of the things I really like is that there's these cards that are weird and experimental and you're not exactly sure how to combine them together.
It's kind of like science. It's just a bunch of
Exactly.
weird experimental stuff. You want to figure out ways to combine different things to get different results.
Exactly.
Oh. Well, I'm definitely excited to experiment with the Experimenter because it certainly seems it can do some really interesting things.
Yeah, she's really cool. She's a lot of fun.
All right, well, let's see what else could be fun. The next card, huh? Faithful Lumi. So 1-cost, 1/1 mech. Battle cry, give a friendly mech +1/+1. So is this like kind of in the Snow Flipper Penguin like vein of you got to have some tiny cute minion that you reveal?
Yeah, this card's adorable. This was like very early concepting was what are the cute things that Dr. Boom has around? And Faithful Lumi was this is
It's like
the
a little
cute
light
thing.
bulb. Apparently the light bulb turned off. There he is. He's back.
There it is.
But keeps coming at us.
Yeah, it's the cute, adorable thing, and there's like thousands of these in Boom Labs, and they're just running around helping out all the other mechs. They're Dr. Boom's little assistants.
Okay, but they don't seem nearly as nefarious as Dr. Boom. They seem,
No,
kind
they're-
of friendly and helpful. They just light the way for you.
Exactly, and they give your mechs bonuses.
And I mean, frankly, this can also be reasonable card to put into a mech focused deck. And
Absolutely, it's like a 1 mana 2/2.
Yeah, and it can work. It can. It can't work in itself though.
It can't. No.
Because it's a battle cry effect, not in the board yet.
Yep.
But it's obviously like it's not quite in Rockpool Hunter level of
Sure.
power in terms of synergy, but can definitely add up.
Yeah, you can help out.
But mostly cute, I would say.
Mostly cute.
All right. Well, I don't know if the next one's cute at all. Omega Agent. So this is an Omega card.
This is?
So this is one of the cards from the Omega. Was it Omega Initiative? Not Omega Project, because the other things are projects.
Yeah, these are the Omega cards.
Okay.
This is like the ultimate science fantasy of Dr. Boom. What are the coolest things that it can possibly put together? And this is the sort of Omega Ninja.
So, and the idea of the Omega cards is basically something that's, the sort of middle part of the game, or maybe the early part of the game, is, okay. But
Yeah.
once you get to the late game, it's potentially very powerful.
Absolutely. Like 4 mana 2/6 taunt, you can play it early. 5 mana 4/5, you're less happy to play early.
Yeah,
but
this seems like it's a lower power than the other one that was it, Omega Defender.
yeah, early game.
Initially at least. But so this gives you it says summon 2 copies, but that means 2 additional copies, so 3
Yeah,
total.
it's like Doppelgangster.
Yeah.
Same cost, but 4/5s instead of 2/2s.
Okay. And would this be affected by, say they were like hand buff type stuff? If you had ways to increase
Absolutely.
the power of this, it would work just like Doppelgangster
Absolutely.
in the sense that it is a 4/5 Doppelgangster. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like Doppelgangster plus Evolve baked into one card. at 10
Okay.
mana.
Okay. I mean, one of the interesting things with the Omega cards is that they do give you the ability to do a lot at 10 mana, even if they themselves, for instance, like this could be a 10 mana card. You imagine, like, okay,
Yeah.
you could make a 12/6 defender like that, but this has a cheaper cost you can play it at, get some effect.
Absolutely.
But you're only actually spending 5 of your mana at that stage of the game. So are there like Omega cards for each of the classes? Are there Omega spells at all? How much info can you give me as far as like getting my,
so I
my
don't wanna
juices flowing about?
I don't want to spoil too much. There's not Mega cards for each of the classes.
Okay.
They're only in a handful. Druid, for example, does not have an Omega card.
Weird. Why?
Druid's really good at ramping mana. It would be less interesting.
It's true. It would.
And there is an Omega spell as well.
Omega spell. Okay. I think Druid already got an Omega card. It's called Ultimate Infestation.
That's a pretty
When you
good
get to-
Omega
when you
card.
get to 10 mana, you get to do everything.
Well, you can't do anything with that early game.
It's true. It is true.
So you have to wait until like turn 3 or 4 once they've ramped up enough.
Once you have 10 mana.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see the others of this, and in particular, like the number of different Omega cards you might be able to put into the same deck. Like how many are neutral? Obviously, we saw Omega Defender.
Yep.
It's a neutral card. It's a neutral minion. So if you're able to like have a deck that gets to 10 mana and then has a bunch of Omega stuff you can do in one turn, like that seems like it could be really powerful.
Yeah, you could play 2 Omega agents.
You could.
That's pretty good.
Got a board full of 4/5s.
It's like, what, 24 damage?
They can
That's a lot.
only Ultimate Infestation one of them.
Exactly.
All right. Well, very cool. This is it looks like a rogue card, warlock card.
Warlock card.
Actually, it's sometimes hard for me to tell because I'm colorblind. But I looked at it and I'm like, it seems you said it was a ninja, and I'm like, I would think that would be a rogue card, but this is a warlock.
This is a spirit ninja. You can see all the spirits in the
ninja.
background.
Oh, right. I see the little skull things floating in the background.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was warlock, but then you said it was a ninja, and I was like, is this rogue?
No,
Am I
warlock.
that colorblind? I didn't think I was
No,
that
no.
colorblind. All right. Cool. We got that. I thought we got that figured out. All right. Well, shall we check
Let's
the
take a look at the next one.
By the way, it seems like the Omega card should be the last one revealed, just thematically.
That makes sense.
Anyway, Lab Recruiter, a 2-cost 3/2, so reasonable stats to begin with. Shuffle 3 copies of a friendly minion. So this is gang up on a guy.
It's gang up on a 3/2.
Okay, this is interesting because a lot of people really like gang up. Gang up is a card that lets you do a lot of kind of wild and wacky things in deck building you couldn't do normally. And frankly, I think that this is a card that is safer now that Cold Oracle went to the Hall of Fame.
Yes,
'Cause
absolutely.
previously with gang up, you just keep putting Cold Oracles in your deck and just keep Cold Oracling, and your opponent would run out of cards, and you just keep putting Cold Oracles in your deck, and they
Yeah,
keep going
it's
deeper
part of
into
why
deep.
we moved Cold Oracle to the Hall of
Exactly.
Fame. So we had space to do cards like this.
So this again is kind of a weird, interesting, open-ended thing because you don't know. Okay, well, this is the thing you do with it. It's like, well, what sort of cards would I want to put more of in my deck?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, this can actually you can play it on itself too. If you have 2 copies, you can play one on the other one. Whoa!
Wow.
We got a.
We're jumping ahead.
That was a surprise.
He was just butting in.
He's just like, hey. I think I know what the cards we're gonna get into in a little bit is. I don't know how close we are, but he apparently didn't want to wait. The good doctor, but anyway, the
Lab Recruiter.
while we're here, so yeah, and this is because it's reasonable enough statted that you could just play it in the early game. It's not like a card you have to sit and wait for your combo necessarily, but you can.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of modality like that. You can just use it as a minion early on, if you need to defend yourself. Say, I'm just trying to think of what particular minions you'd want to like Lab Recruiter back in your deck. This also potentially loops pretty well with like Elven Minstrel.
You can,
you get minstrels getting this, getting minstrels, getting oh god.
That's pretty good.
Keeps going.
If there were a way to like draw your whole deck so you had nothing left, you could just pick what was going to be in the rest of your deck.
Oh, that's actually really cool. So, okay, you could actually use that. You could use the unstable element to empty your deck, and then use Lab Recruiter to ensure that you're just drawing a particular minion for
the rest of the game, or the rest of your game.
Oh, wow.
So just to clarify, Myra's Unstable Element is the rogue legendary spell. That's a 5-mana spell that draws the rest of your deck.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Wow. That's the. I mean, and that's exactly what we're talking about. There's these kind of pieces of various experiments. Like I don't know what I want to do with this, but I know that there's crazy things you can do with this.
Yeah, it'll be fun going through reveal season as we see new cards. You can look back and say, "Oh, I bet this pieces together here."
Well, it's funny because I remember thinking the same thing about Master Oakheart when that was first revealed. I'm like, I don't know what you do with this, but this does some powerful things. And then it did really, really powerful
some really powerful things.
Well, it's particularly funny because I remember when we got Dragon Hatcher as a reveal card for what's that? Was that? That was Kobolds, yeah. And when we revealed it, we're like, well, I don't know, it's a 9-cost 2/4, gets you a dragon, but it turns out it being a 2-power minion really helps give it combo potential with Master Oakheart. Lots of kind of stuff like that I've seen so far. It's like things that I don't know what I'm going to do with them, and it's difficult to evaluate without really knowing everything that's in the set, and frankly in future sets too.
Yeah, for sure.
So
it's fun having these cards out there so that we can build on them in future sets and put in little pieces that work with them. One thing I wanted to call out before we move on is that this is it shuffles 3 copies of a friendly minion into your deck. So gang up, you can hit both players.
Oh, right.
Slightly different.
It's true. Okay, yeah.
So not strictly power creep.
You rarely get your opponent's minions.
With this one, sometimes you wanted to play it as a 2-mana 3/2, and you really didn't want to shuffle in Dire Mole or whatever.
I don't want that.
Right, exactly. So that's why we made it friendly minion.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, well, I know we got another big exciting one coming. I don't know if we're there yet. Okay, weaponized pinata.
I love this art.
Death rattle, add a random legendary minion to your hand. Also, I love that art. That's hilarious. It is literally a pinata with like a jetpack and railguns.
Yeah, that's the pinata you don't want to mess with. It's out there for revenge.
So this is kind of like a piloted shredder, but instead of dropping a minion into play, it gives your hand. Obviously, very different. Stat-wise, though, it's a 4/3 mech for 4. Give you a random legendary minion. So it's potentially like a reasonable value card. Yep. And obviously the huge range of stuff that this can get you. I always like this kind of effect because it creates really interesting kind of gameplay of, well, what do I do with this? Like, I got a King Mukla, or I got a Ixlid Fungal Lord or whatever, and it's like, now try and figure out, how does the rest of my game plan adapt to this new tool that I have access to? My favorite to get is Emrys off of Bone Drake, in case you were curious.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Too.
Temperous is great.
Temperous and Emrys off of Bone Drake are like my favorite things in the world. I'm going to be excited to get either of them off of this, too.
Yeah, and this is a
figure out, what do I do now?
It works with all your magnetic stuff if you want to do shenanigans.
In case you're curious, we get both Temperous and Emrys off of Bone Drakes.
You win that game.
And then you Emrys your Alexstrasza. It is big enough to just kill them immediately in your extra turn. But
that's pretty great. Assuming you survive to get your extra turn.
Oh yeah. That part's crucial. You can't die or be turned into a chicken. That might ruin
That's
everything.
also bad.
Yeah. But apparently, you got better. So
It works out. It just takes a little while, a couple weeks. Yeah, so it's just it's a pinata, and you smash it, and you get a legendary minion. It's pretty fun.
So I get a lot of feeling from this set that's pretty similar to Goblins versus Gnomes. Obviously there's mechs.
Yep, and Dr. Boom.
And Dr. Boom. And this is at least feels like a callback to Piloted Shredder in a way. If only you get a random minion out of it. It's a 4/3 mech. Was that sort of an intentional thing when you came into this? This is Dr. Boom set kind of, and he was from Goblins versus Gnomes. Like, was that a thing that was going on?
Yeah, so we wanted to tie them together a bit. There's some callback cards in this expansion. Weaponized Pinata is not the strongest one, but there's a handful that are. Dr. Boom was from Goblins versus Gnomes. Let's call back to his history. But the Boomsday project as a whole is really about science. The GVG was really about the science that explodes, and this is much broader. So we've got cloning and biology and chemistry and astronomy. There's all sorts of cool stuff going on.
Very cool. All right, well, I think we got more.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Oh, we got.
Oh, is there a new card in here?
Demonic Project. Each player transforms a random minion in their hand to a demon. Whoa. All right.
Do we have the big card reveal for that?
There it is.
There it is.
Demonic Project. Each player transforms. Whoa. Okay, so this is interesting at a number of levels. This is kind of a Dirty Rat type card, right?
It's very much a Dirty Rat card.
This is a card that if your opponent, say, is playing Shutterwalk Shaman,
for example,
let's just say, and they have a Shutterwalk in their hand, you can play this, and maybe that Shutterwalk is no longer a Shutterwalk. It's something else.
Pit Lord.
Now it's a Void Lord. Now it's a imp of some kind. Huh. So I know that a lot of players were pretty afraid of Flabidinous Floop. By the way, I love those names. So that was one thing that Froden and I were talking about, is like, how crazy is casting going to be when we're talking about, he just needs to draw his Flabidinous Floop.
That's going to be great.
I'm looking forward to it, but at the same time, I'm going to need to learn these names well enough that I don't trip over them as I'm speaking, because they're all names that you will trip over when you're speaking. It's like, he's looking to find Myra's Unstable Element, but can he find Kangor's whatever army? Endless army. There's just so much stuff there. But this card, clearly it gives you some potential to interact with, say, Skull of the Minari.
Yep.
You can potentially give yourself additional demons to put into play with that, but it feels like more than anything, this gives you some form of interaction against minions in your opponent's hand.
Yep. If you want to take down Floop, if you want to take down Shutterwalk, Master Oakhart you mentioned earlier, Hadronax, pretty good against all those things.
And clearly, this is a card that is at its best against decks that have a relatively limited number of minions in them. So Malagos decks, for instance, typically don't have a ton of minions in their hand. They're really spell heavy. So if you're able to Demonic Project their Malagos, it really screws them up. I mean, we do see a lot of the Malagos decks right now winning without Malagos. You can still win the game outside of that, but because of cards like this, similar to Dirty Rat, you need to kind of have a plan B for any deck like that.
It makes those late game plans that are very, very centered around exactly one minion much riskier, much more dangerous.
It is specifically a Warlock card, right? So,
it is.
It's not a card that can go into every deck that's looking for that kind of tool like Dirty Rat was, but it is something that can give you a way to interact with things that otherwise you really didn't have any way to mess with before.
It's also a weird take on the project cycle. The projects are all things that help both you and your opponent. It's a little bit iffy as to whether or not turning their minion into a demon
does something, the same thing. It is
No, the Warlocks are trying to help out.
Yeah, that's their thing. Warlocks, they're just really magnanimous. They're just trying to help everyone out. So
they're just so generous.
Can you play this if you have no minions in your hand?
You can.
Okay.
If you didn't want an extra demon, then yeah.
And if you play it and your opponent has no minion, you just don't see the animation.
It'll just be yours. It'll go out, turn into a demon.
And you always will see the card that we saw there. We saw the card that was revealed, so I hit Malagos, I hit Shutterwalk, I hit,
Yep, and you know what goes back into their hand too. So they got a Succubus, they got a Pit Lord, or they got a Void Lord, and I've got to play around that now.
Yeah. And I like that this gives both players a way to kind of try to play with or around it, because the opponent, knowing that you're playing Warlock and this is a card that could be in your deck, maybe I'll hold my extra Manatide Totem, maybe I'll hold my extra whatever minion that I don't necessarily need for my full-on combo. Maybe you end up seeing some of the Malagos lists that now often are super spell heavy and very minion light, maybe they go to the Oaken Summons Ironwood Golem route, so they can hold Ironwood Golem in their hand to protect themselves from Demonic Project if this becomes popular.
A lot like Dirty Rat,
right?
Where you would hold extra minions and be careful about it.
There's a very similar dynamic, but obviously plays out in a different way. There's no like, well, I'll Dirty Rat you, and they're like, oh, I just put Velen into play on turn 3. It's like, oh,
right.
I didn't really think that through. I was trying to hit your Raza before you could play it and get your hero power upgraded. But
turn 2 Antonitis, sometimes it's pretty bad.
That's happened to me before too.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, we can see the animation one more time, I think. So, Demonic Project. Boom. I feel like we came out ahead in that one.
I think that worked out pretty well for us.
Think of Succubus.
Extraordinary.
I would agree, Golden. That was extraordinary. All right. Oh, next card is Unexpected Results. 4-cost spell. Summon 2 random 2-cost minions. Whoa, improved by spell damage.
Yep.
Okay, what does that mean? What do I get 3? Do I get 3-cost minions?
So generally when we have these cards that get upgraded, it's the digit that gets upgraded.
That makes sense.
So, because that way we can show it, right? So it'll have the stars and say, like, summon 2 random 6-cost minions.
Okay.
Or if you've got Malygos out, summon 2 random 7-cost minions.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, what's the idea behind making these cards that are affected by spell damage that aren't damaging spells? Like, this is, I think, the first that we've seen that does this, right?
It is, yeah. So, it's a way to convert spell damage into something else, into board presence or some other effect that you can do with spell damage that isn't just, I make my opponent dead. Maybe you can turn spell damage into AoE or spell damage into minions. The problem we've had historically with spell damage is that you play a couple spell damage minions, you play
a bunch of spells that do damage.
A bunch of very cheap spells that do damage,
exactly.
And then your opponent's dead. So one of the things we want to experiment with is, what if you had individual payoff cards for your spell damage, and it was more about, I'm going to get some spell damage on the board and then play a payoff card, like Unexpected Results or Arcane Explosion or something, and convert that into one effect rather than my opponent is dead.
Interesting. Okay, I mean, yeah, there's certainly stuff like Arcane Explosion. We've seen, for instance, Maelstrom Portal was
absolutely
a card that saw a lot of play, and in fact, Amnesiac played Kobold Geomancer in his World Championship deck because it was so powerful with that. So I'm curious to see, how much this card would potentially lead people to play more spell damage type stuff than they do now. I mean, obviously, this is a card that could easily put into a deck with Bloodmage Stalnos, because Bloodmage Stalnos pretty easily goes into most decks that have damaging spells. But I mean, I'm trying to think, like, will we see more spell damage stuff in this set to help?
I think there's a good chance.
This, I would guess.
I think this card has a good chance of getting some support in this set.
But and is this the only card that does this sort of thing that scales off spell damage in a non-damaging way, or are there more of this too?
It is. It's the only card that's like that.
Interesting. Well, you could definitely imagine building a deck with this, and like you mentioned, Arcane Explosion, another card that scales very well. Like AoEs always tend to scale really well. I've always been kind of confused why like Greater Arcane Missiles and Arcane Missiles scale differently. I know that Arcane Missiles can't just scale like every single one does too, because then it just like multiplies.
They both fire extra missiles, right?
No,
Greater Arcane
Missiles,
3,
the missiles
4 damage.
deal more,
You're right.
but Arcane Missiles, I mean, they're greater, so that they just hit harder.
Yes, in part it's the digit thing.
Yeah.
Right. When you write out Greater Arcane Missiles, it says fire 3 things that deal 3 damage each, and so that's the easier thing to increment.
That makes a lot of sense. I've never really parsed it that way, but that's an easy way to read the card and know, like, it's the thing with the actual numerical value that's affected by something that affects numerical values. Got it. Learn something new every day.
It just makes it easier to display it too, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, very cool. And I think this may be Unexpected Results, but I think we can expect what we're going to see as the next card.
I think this is our last card.
Kind of had a little cameo earlier. So, Dr. Boom Mad Genius. This is a warrior hero card. For the rest of the game, your mechs have rush. He gives you 7 armor. That's the first hero we've seen give a
7 mana, 7 armor. It had to be that way.
It's very good. Fair enough.
It had to be that way.
Okay, so before we look at what else Dr. Boom does, I want to talk a little bit about hero cards in general, because this is the second set now that we've had one hero card. I imagine this is the only one in this set?
This is the only one.
Okay, and we had Hagatha in the previous set.
We did, yeah.
Who, by the way, I think is great. Hagatha's a ton of fun to play with.
Hagatha's super awesome.
So what's the sort of general philosophy behind hero cards? Because obviously they were introduced as a Death Knights, and now we're seeing them kind of paired out more infrequently and giving them, not to every class, but just to one in each of these sets.
Hero cards are a great way to communicate, this is the cool character in this expansion. This is the thing that the expansion is built around. It's Hagatha's Witchwood. It's Dr. Boom's Laboratories. And so when we make hero cards, they can communicate very obviously, this is the central character. Care about this guy. This guy's really special. The gameplay is also great. Death Knights have been some of our most popular cards. People absolutely love them. Hagatha's a lot of fun. Dr. Boom is my second favorite card in the set. He's insanely cool.
What's your favorent?
Whizbang. Whizbang is the most wonderful card in the expansion.
We'll talk a little bit more about that. I know people are waiting to see what this card does. We won't stand in the way of them any further. So let's see more of Dr. Boom, Mad Genius. Right. Big red button. Wait.
I'm so Here comes the boom!
This is the most important part of every hero card.
You're good.
I like that.
Thanks. I'll destroy you last. Nice.
Dr. Boom.
Yeah, the emotes are my favorite part of basically every hero card. He's always waiting. I think we're getting the there it is.
There it is.
I was like, why aren't you pressing the other ones?
Failure is an option. Don't make me push buttons.
All right. Well, speaking of buttons, let's get
Here's the button.
Kaboom. Swaps each turn.
Yeah. It does.
Hero power that changes every turn.
Yeah. So his hero power is big red button.
Wow.
When you look at it in collection.
Okay, so his hero power is one of these each turn.
It is.
Randomly.
And it swaps at the end of your turn so your opponent can see what it's going to be.
Okay. Does it go in sequence or is it random or?
It's random. You'll never get the same one twice in a row. But other than that, it's completely random.
Oh, wow.
And the idea is that he's got this giant mech suit. He doesn't really understand how it works. He just has one big red button. He just mashes it every turn.
That's awesome.
And so sometimes it's got a blast shield and you get 7 armor, and sometimes it's a zap can does 3 damage.
So this is interesting because one of the things about hero cards and hero powers in general is that they can often lead to the game being about one thing once that they happen. Like for instance, with Jaina or Gul'dan or Rexxar, once you get to the point where someone has played their Death Knight, played their hero, it's like, okay, this is what the game is about now. With Dr. Boom, it's still variable. These are all clearly powerful, but the gameplay from the point that you play Dr. Boom is a lot more variable than the gameplay from the point. I wouldn't say Rexxar because Rexxar is always weird, but say Jaina. It's like, okay, there's gonna be things are gonna be dying. There's gonna be water elementals coming. Gul'dan is eating your stuff. Dr. Boom though, it's like who knows what's gonna happen.
Exactly. There's a lot of chaos and there's a little bit more of a game afterwards. It's not just you're fighting against water elementals and a lot of lifesteal for the rest of the game. There's who knows exactly what's gonna happen. It's a little bit different every time, and so. You get a lot of different stuff, and some of these even have a little bit of variance within that. Right. You discover a mech, there's a bunch of different mechs you can get.
And worth noting that he has your mechs gaining rush for the rest of the game, so that becomes particularly powerful that you're discovering mechs, and then you can immediately use them for removal.
Yes.
It's one of the things with
Death Rattle mechs, for example.
Right. So with Rexxar, for instance, you'd be like, okay, I really hope I'm getting vicious scalehide on every single thing that I stitch together because I really need to stay alive. He can automatically have all the mechs that you draw from your deck. Right? You'd probably want to play this in a deck that has mechs to take advantage of that. Because I imagine that feels like a powerful part of his ability.
For sure, yeah. Giving all your mechs rush is great. There's a lot of pretty powerful mechs out there.
Right. And so, but you don't just necessarily have a mech you're getting every single turn with this. You need to have mechs in your deck to begin with in order to take advantage of that, unless you get the delivery drone ability as part of your hero power.
Micro Squad too. Those 1/1 microbots also have rush.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay.
Which makes it way more powerful than it looks.
When I first saw that, I'm like, 3/1's okay, but 3/1's that all have rush, that is very powerful. Okay.
It's a little bit like Zap Cannon, but you can split the damage up, assuming you don't want to go face.
Got it. Okay, very cool. So, I mean, obviously, you mentioned that Dr. Boom, kind of the hero/villain of the set, the iconic character in the set. What was outside of like he was such a big part of at least the metagame in Goblins vs. Gnomes. Like, what got you all to the point that you wanted to make an entire set around him and then make this card?
It actually went the other way a little bit. We had a set that was going to be about science. We wanted to have giant robots punching each other, and we did.
That. Yeah.
And so the question was, who's the character that makes the most sense? Where do we actually put a science set? The Netherstorm made a lot of sense. There's a lot of science going on there in World of Warcraft. And Dr. Boom made sense as the central character. He's going to have a crazy science lab.
That does make a lot of sense, yeah.
And so Dr. Boom's cool in that he's one of those characters that the Hearthstone community really created.
Right.
More than Hearthstone as a game or World of Warcraft, the Hearthstone community got so invested in Dr. Boom that it's fun bringing him back.
Well, it's particularly funny because, you know, as someone who played a lot of World of Warcraft back in the day, Dr. Boom in World of Warcraft is basically primarily known as like a target dummy, because, you know, the quests, he basically couldn't die at infinite hit points. You could like test your DPS on Dr. Boom, like standing at afar, and he has come a long way since then, as you can see.
He's not a target dummy anymore.
All right, well, so that's all the cards we had to reveal.
It is.
So are there any ones that we talked about? You know, let's go back over the cards. In case people missed the beginning of the stream, we did, you know, as we mentioned, have a little bit of technical issues at the start of the stream. So let's just go through all the cards one more time. So let's start with Kangor's Endless Army. With this is we're gonna see the Brawl animation yet again.
Hey, Brawl's awesome.
It is.
But yeah, this is the Paladin legendary spell, and it brings back 3 of your mechs that died this game, and you get to keep them magnetic cards.
You need to be playing a mech.
Surrender.
So,
Or at least have Ziliax in your deck.
Sure. So my understanding is that the mech sort of tribe, like as far as classes that will get mech-focused cards, is primarily in Paladin, Warrior, and Hunter.
It is.
Is that correct?
Yep, those are the 3 classes that are focused around mechs. And so Dr. Boom is a legendary card that makes your mechs a lot better. Paladin has Kangor's Endless Army that makes your mechs a lot better. And Hunter has some good magnetic minions and some other cards that play well with mechs.
The Spider Drone? Is it?
Spider Bomb,
Spider
yeah.
Bomb, okay. And there is Kangor's Endless Army, the first card we saw. And then go through the rest. Deadringer, we talked about this a little bit, potentially a powerful card for any kind of combo-based Death Rattle deck, whether a, what was it, Corpse, like, I'm forgetting the name.
Coffin Crasher?
Coffin Crasher. I was like, it's not Corpse Crasher.
No,
Coffin
Corpse
Crasher. Yeah. Coffin Crasher or Quest Priest. I'm definitely going to be trying this out in Quest Priest for sure. You know, help you, get to your quest fulfillment and not risk the fatigue later on. But let's keep going. I think we had Reckless Experimenter, another really interesting potential Death Rattle, like combo-ish card.
Play well together.
Right, well, but I also think it's a little bit less straightforward. I think with the other one, it's like, okay, I always want to be able to either have a deck that wants lots of Death Rattles or wants specific Death Rattles. This is like, I need cards that want to die, which Death Rattle cards do, but not all of them, not necessarily in this way. But
right.
as you mentioned, this is a Carnivorous Cube, dream. I remember when Carnivorous Cube was first revealed, and I remember thinking, it's like, this card is so cool, could do so many things. Well, it turns out we were right.
There's a lot of stuff you can do with that card.
It doesn't tend to just kill people in like turn 6 anymore,
Yes.
off of Skull of Luminari and Lackey and whatever.
Doomguard shenanigans and
We've reined that in a little bit, but then we had this cute one, yes.
Faithful Lumi.
This is the Snow Flipper Penguinish. Is that really just a goal every set? It's like, what's the cute thing?
I think it's important to have cute things in Hearthstone. Hearthstone's a fun and silly game, and having Snow Flipper Penguins or Faithful Lumis helps define the expansions.
I don't know that I'd feel as bad killing this.
Feral Gibberers.
Yeah, Feral Gibber. I remember that one.
Thanks.
Omega Agent. One of the Omega something. Not Project.
Initiative,
that's what it was. We talked about this before. Alright. And then Lab Recruiter. Gang up on a guy.
Yep.
I like this. This is definitely, I think, one of the cooler cards that we've seen here. Is there any particular card that we talked about today? I think you said Dr. Boom was your second favorite in the set.
It is.
So
I like Lab Recruiter a lot. I actually like Reckless Experimenter a lot. I really love those kind of open-ended, weird build-around cards that you're not sure exactly what you're going to do with it. Like, Cube is one of my favorite cards because you can do so many weird things with it. And Experimenter, I think, is awesome. I love Weaponized Pinata, too. Just like the fantasy. Here it is.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of scary. Like, there's just someone in the pinata? That seems dangerous. Like, I don't want to be, like, invited to Dr. Boom's kid's birthday party because you don't know what's going to happen to you.
Right? I mean, pinatas get revenge.
You could just be in the pinata.
Yeah, you pop it open, there's a legendary minion inside.
Yeah. And then I like the existence of this card, the Demonic Project. Is there anything else like this in the set that may give that sort of interaction, or is this kind of the mess with your opponent's minion-based combo type card that exists in the set.
I think this is the most mess with your minion-based combo card in the set. And it's pretty direct. That's what it does.
Well, it is. I mean, as someone who loves to play, say, controlling mage decks, controlling priest decks, I don't get to play with this in those decks, but I do like that it exists, and it makes people think about things in sort of different context.
It does a healthy game, have that kind of interaction.
Unexpected results. I'm still, I don't know. I mean, it's aptly named. I don't know what to think about this. I don't know where this goes exactly, but it's definitely an interesting card, and I like the idea of taking an existing mechanic and expanding on what it does, not just like, oh, well, what are the ways you can use spell damage? Like, what damaging spells are there? It's like, oh, this is something else that cares about that you maybe want to look at in a different way other than just blow your opponent up.
Absolutely. I like trying out old mechanics in new ways, see exactly what the different versions of spell damage can look like. I think this is one of those cards that might get more interesting as the reveal season continues, too.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. And then, last but not least,
Dr.
Boom.
I'm shooting now.
There we go. For the rest of the game, your mechs have rush, and of course, the whole suite of possible hero powers from his mech suit that he just smashes his button and gets a different effect at each turn. I love that fantasy. Like, that's what's going on here.
He's a great card. He's a lot of fun to play, and it's a cool story to tell.
Very cool. Well, speaking of telling stories, are there any favorite stories of yours from the design of this set, whether from these cards or other cards? Or I know you mentioned your favorite card was, what is it?
Whiz-Bang the Wonderful.
Yeah. I have to say, I love the existence of that card. So for those of you who may not have seen it, Whiz-Bang the Wonderful is it's a 4/5 for 4, but it doesn't really matter that it's a 4/5 for 4.
Not that much, no.
Because it's just a card that replaces your deck with a random recipe deck.
Yep, one of the 18 most recent deck recipes. So it's not going to give you one of the basic deck recipes. It's just going to do the ones from the expansions. Right. And we've actually retooled some of the Witchwood ones for the Boomsday project just so that there's some cool stuff going on.
And I think that's particularly awesome because if you're a newer player, you're like, oh, I don't have that many cards. I don't have a chance to play all these decks. I see these recipes. I can't build them. It's like, well, you just get this one card, and it gives you access to so many different play experiences. They may not be like top tier metagame decks. You're not necessarily going to take them to Legend, though. I'm sure people will try.
There's some pretty good decks in there, so we'll see how that goes. I'm excited to play it to Legend. I'm excited to watch people on stream play it to Legend.
I'm sure people will be making the attempt at least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a lot of fun. It's great if you're the type of player who doesn't really like building decks, but you want to experience a bunch of different stuff, and you can just go out there and there's 18 different things to try out. That's a pretty good variety. And
just I imagine he doesn't appear in Arena.
He does not.
Okay.
No.
It's like I drafted a pretty good. I remember like Prince Malchezaar. I was like, oh, you just draft Prince Malchezaar, and you have all these powerful cards. But this is like you literally just have a constructed deck, not an arena card. No.
Tavern Brawls will be hit and miss too. Some of them it's allowed, some of them not so much.
Fair enough.
Depending on whether or not it makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, any other like cool stories from the design of the set that you want to share with us before we're going to wrap things up? Because we're getting to the end.
I think we're getting close to the point of wrapping things up. I think figuring out Dr. Boom was a lot of fun. What does it mean to have this iconic character, and how do we make him make sense in Warrior with his giant mech suit? How do we capture the fantasy of a giant mech suit? I think having the big red button as hero power swap, that's a lot of fun. But I think that's bringing us to the end. Go to the boomsdayproject.com to take a look at these cards and the other ones that we've spoiled. Community card reveals are going to be starting today. There's going to be stuff going on tonight.
And you're actually going to be guesting on our show, Omnistone, tomorrow. We have a card reveal tomorrow at noon, and I think you're going to be coming to hang out and talk with us again then.
I will. That should be a lot of fun.
Now that you're not a chicken, it'll be a lot easier to communicate.
Yeah, we're not going to have any technical difficulties at the start. It should go a lot more smoothly. So the Boomsday Project is coming out August 7th. I've been incredibly excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Tune in for the final card reveal stream. That's going to be August 1st with Day9 and Mike Donay. That should be pretty awesome. There's some good stuff we're saving for that.
And you can pre-order and get your Mechager access.
Absolutely. You can do that both in client and also at the website at theboomsdayproject.com.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's all we have today. So thank you all very much for watching. Thanks to the technical team who was able to get Peter out of chicken form.
That was really important to me.
Today. Yeah, that was going to be really difficult if you weren't. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Looking forward to the Boomsday Project coming out soon.
Thank you.